With Petscop almost reaching a decade old, it's been something that's been on my mind recently, and I don't think I'm alone. With the recent release of 3D Workers Island, interest in both projects have been reignited, sparking a wave of deep dives, analysis, and fan theories. Behind both of these creations is Tony Domenico, also known by his aliases, Press Yes or Mr. Yes. Many, including myself, have become fond of Tony's work. His unique style of storytelling in Petscop created one of the most influential and lasting internet mysteries, cultivating a niche but dedicated community. But I was always curious if there was anything beyond Petscop and 3D Workers Island, something Domenico may have created before, but unfortunately never got the spotlight. So I started to do a little digging, and what I found was a website, a portfolio of games, music, and unfinished stories belonging to Domenico. With that in mind, I thought it'd be a fun deep dive taking a look at some of these lesser known works. Tony has been around the internet for a while, so some of these projects go back almost around the early 2000s. If you're like me, a fan of Petscop and everything Tony does, then this deep dive will be just as interesting for you as it was for me. Nifty is a game that Tony released in July of 2007. Using the right and left mouse buttons to change the symbols of the tiles, you need to match whatever the hints are on the top of the screen to move on to the next level. And if you notice on the top right of the screen is the game's mascot, Nif. The first few levels are pretty straightforward. The hints are fairly easy to understand, but are sometimes not always displayed on the screen. As you move forward, some of the hints are displayed on the title bar of the game, and some are hidden deep within the game's files. Everything seems to be normal at first, until you beat level 10.
Greetings. If you don't mind, could you stop playing? There's a treasure at the end of this game, and I want to keep it. No? You will not quit? I hope you change your mind soon.
The puzzles beyond this get a little trickier. The hints now are more cryptic, but are still solvable. After beating level 20, another message plays.
Why hello there. Yet, you can... I have no other choice but to force you to leave. Well, as you can see, yes, your little creature is gone. There's nothing you can do. There is nothing. Yes, you can leave now. There is nothing to see. Little Nif, my dear friend, it is time to drop the rock, and I can safely say, that was no idiom of any kind.
As the message fades out, a huge boulder falls past the screen, as we then cut to Nif, struggling to hold the weight of a boulder. Spamming the spacebar and pressing the up key allows us to finish the level, and save Nif in the process. Now without our little friend by our side, you must solve more puzzles alone. After solving all the other puzzles and reaching level 30, something strange happens. The game crashes. And no, this is not the true ending. As you progress through the game once more, you may notice a folder called Garrelina Logs has been created in the game's directory, and as you progress further, 6 text files are created. Opening them up reveals the true nature of this game.
October 14th, 2000. We finished it. I know you may be interested, but we ask you just to wait 2 more days for the actual release. It will be worth it, I assure you. This game is amazing. October 25th, 2000. Well, our mission is basically complete. Everyone loved Nift, but now it is time to start a new project. I hope all of you will continue playing our games. November 2nd, 2000. I am in shock. Seems everyone is. We have taken out the NIF download temporarily, but when things cool down, you will be able to pick it up again. We are very sorry. December 14th, 2000. For those of you who have not heard, NIF will never be available again. We apologize, but there is no other choice. More info on this tomorrow. There's not enough time for me to explain. November 15th, 2000. Basically, NIF caused a couple people to commit suicide. Well, more than a couple. Apparently our little NIF character is responsible, but we are not ready to believe something so ridiculous. Nonetheless, we are forced to stop distributing the game. Our next game project is looking a little better, however. March 21st, 2001. Hello there. You ready to stop f***ing around with us? Yes, we know, we haven't updated the site. Who really cares? We're not even making games anymore, so what could be the problem? And stop leaving comments about Nift. We know you want your stupid game back. But no, it's not coming back. The game was impossible to beat anyways. It was designed that way. Perhaps that's what made the damn players kill themselves. Goodbye.
Reaching the end once again, we have been given another hint. Like the logs, 16 text files have been created in the game's directory. Combining each file into a sentence spells out,
"It is easy to make it past. All you need to do is make it become blue."
Congratulations, you have reached the end. At first, the boss doesn't seem to be faced by your bullets, but by using the Helper Maker, you could finally defeat the boss, thus beating the game. So, that was nifty. With the game telling us to quit and the Garalina logs give us an insight as to what is wrong with this game, it gives us full context as to what is going on here. Garalina, the developer of Nifty, originally released a game called Nift in the year 2000. For an unknown reason, Nift would leave an effect on the player, causing them to be personally attached to the game's mascot. When the mascot would die halfway through the game, players became so emotionally shattered that they committed suicide. After this phenomenon would occur, Garalina would recall all copies of the game and go bankrupt within a couple of months. If the name Garalina sounds familiar, it should, as the name was reused for Petscop. In fact, a lot of assets of Nifty were reused for Petscop. The symbols on the tiles were reused for Even Care, and the sound that plays when the code for the secret menu is entered is reused directly from Nifty. Also, to clear any confusion, Nifty is not any way, shape, or form canon to Petscop. Tony even confirmed this. Nifty wouldn't be the only game Tony would release. There are like 6 other games on his website that you can download and play yourself. Tony's storytelling through games is great in itself, but his standalone stories are something else entirely. Taper's story begins at a bench outside an old school. Marvin Mill, a man in his 60s, sits waiting as he participates in his daily routine. It's clear that he has a strange fixation on observing kids leaving school, especially those who walk home rather than take the bus. One day, a quiet girl catches his attention, more than anyone ever has. For a moment, Marvin feels overwhelming joy and purpose, but when he moves towards her attempting to give her a hug, she panics and runs, shattering his moment of happiness. He returns to his usual sad routine, and before sitting down, someone else has taken his spot on the bench. We then shift our focus into a camera store called Taper's, where the narrator is shopping for a new camera after his previous one broke in the rain. He gets into an exchange with a store clerk before finally finding the perfect waterproof camera. After leaving the store, the narrator begins filming people in the rain, trying to find something real and meaningful to capture. He spots a young girl, and on impulse, follows her with the camera. She notices, gets frightened, and runs home. The narrator realizes with a shock that the house she enters is his actual old home, and that the girl is his daughter, who he hasn't seen or visited in a long time. Stunned by this discovery, he walks away repeating to himself as it's the only thing he can manage to say. The next chapter begins in what appears to be someone's dream, as they are falling through a tunnel. The girl, Care, wakes up from her dream to find her mother calling her downstairs. Her mother gives her a mysterious green watch, telling her to wear it but not explaining why. Switching to the previous day, Care's mother sees her daughter being followed by a strange man, and warns her to avoid him at all costs. Care confirms the man had a camera and was filming and chasing her, concerning her mother even more. Back at the school, 2 men are sitting on the bench as Marvin is awkwardly standing nearby. As Marvin stands focused on the school, we get a glimpse inside his sick, twisted mind. He considers children to be the purest on earth. As for adults, he despises them, only referring to them as hungry people. He wishes he could live amongst the children, laughing and playing with the girl he saw before. He wishes he could relive his childhood and stay in this fantasy, never to be unhappy again. One of the men notices Marvin, and rightly tells him to move away from the bench. As the school bell rings, Marvin watches as the kids leave the school and catches the girl he saw yesterday. As the children start to vanish, only Care stands, looking at Marvin's direction. As Marvin stood frozen in place, shaking, one of the men would approach him.
Hey, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Do you really want to know that? Was that a serious question? I don't think it's safe for you to be here. Why don't you go home? Home? I came here for this bench and didn't get it. Then I went to relax next to the bench and didn't get that either. And now you're denying me the right to stand outside? You're all the same. Why can't you be more like them?
As Marvin storms off, he waves to the children, who, unfortunately, would wave and cheer back. Except Care, who watches silently. Marvin becomes fixated on his lack of response, and, despite vowing not to repeat his past humiliation, follows her home again. Care's home is portrayed as a dark, cold, haunting room, almost as if you were stepping into a horror movie, with the walls and floors painted black, the television unplugged, and all the windows purposely broken.
Stepping to this house would have made you cry.
Coming home late, her mother, furious, accuses Care of lying, believing she saw the cameraman again. The mysterious watch, and Care's inability to read it, makes her mother even more furious. As the argument escalates, Care sent to her room, and her mother returns to watching the outside world.
Camera monster. What a silly kid.
Back at the taper store, the narrator has a strange interaction with the store clerk while searching for a camera to replace his old one. Kara attempts to close her window in her bedroom. Much like her house, her room is in disarray. Her window wouldn't close, a few blankets, and her childhood dolls all arranged in a circle, holding hands. Her room consisted of two separate halves, the sleeping half and the deceased doll's half. The black paint on the ceiling seemed to have grown darker with each passing night, but by this time, she was convinced that this was no illusion. Underneath all the darkness used to be a bright green layer of paint that covered the entire house. Maybe if she saw the color again, it could make her feel warmer. Kara would have dreams of the black paint peeling off, falling all at once on the floor in a big clump. As the green paint would cover her life again, everything in her life would be fine. Nobody was angry, and the green would show through only not through the walls, but everyone around her. We go back to Marvin sitting next to a window, doing what he does best, being a complete weirdo. Feeling angry at himself for having rightly been put in his place, he would continue to read off the piece of paper he had recently written on.
Walk home, lay down, sleep.
These are things Marvin should have done, but hasn't. This isn't what Marvin wanted to do anyway. Battling with his thoughts and trying to block them out, he would succumb to his motives and break into the house behind him. Climbing inside, he would see that this house is in a total mess. The fridge was half open, pots and pans lying across the floor next to each other, and broken light bulbs as well as torn papers spread out as if they were done on purpose.
It was as if they were baking babies in here, and the babies struck back.
Outside, Marvin would spot a man walking by the house. Marvin could just immediately tell that the only motivation behind this quick stroll through the neighborhood was pure hunger and greed. Marvin would quickly duck behind the window, and after a minute and a half of silence, there is a knock on the door. The man is after him. As Marvin sits on the floor, waiting for the knock to pass, he lists out his favorite numbers.
4, 8, 14, 18, 48, 84.
As the knocking got louder and louder, Marvin rushed up the stairs in a panic, collapsing at the floor. Reaching up the second floor, he sees the only room visible. He opens and enters what appears to be a bedroom, an almost empty bedroom with a single bed and a collection of little dolls. Walking over to the bed, Marvin would notice that it was not empty at all. Reaching his hand out to Care, silence fell. Marvin knew it was time to go home. Delving in what appears to be another dream shows the perspective of Care as she builds a happiness engine from talking parts, speaking in multiple different languages. She attempts to build an engine full of joy, as a contrast to others who build sadness engines in their dreams. She doubts herself when one of the parts questions what Care is trying to prove.
It's all going to be useless. Nobody's going to help you. There will be no benefit from a happiness engine, because at this point, it is far too late.
Not understanding what I just said, Care ignores the suggestion and returns to her work, until she wakes up, tied to a chair that's glued to the floor, in what appears to be a classroom. In the front of the room is a chalkboard with the words begin, add, for, soup being written on it. On a shelf were a few books and a large desk covered with an assortment of objects. Just then, Care would hear a number of quiet footsteps approaching her. As the footsteps got louder and louder, the doorknob would begin to turn. A few seconds of silence fell, until the door would slam open, breaking the doorknob. With a horrifying smile spread across his face, Marvin would march in. With a creepy grin, he would hold out his arms, walking towards her.
This is my life. Hello, kid.
Staring at Marvin, Care wouldn't say a word. I mean, what the hell could you say? I mean, this guy's so weird. As he waited for a response, Marvin would continue.
No. Who are you?
No response. Overwhelmed by fear, Care looked like she was about to cry.
This won't do. My name is Marvin. Please say hello.
Still no response. Feeling irritated, Marvin would shout, demanding that she would say hello back. Walking over to the chalkboard, various little objects filled the board. Some of them useless, some of them fun, some of them strange. Searching from the table, Marvin would pull out a thin and long object filled with bluish liquid, a syringe.
So, what's your favorite color?
No response.
No, I mean it. If you don't tell me what your favorite color is, I'm going to assume that it's orange. Orange is my favorite color.
Dude, what the this guy is so weird! Care was ready to explode, but unfortunately, that wasn't going to happen.
I like orange a lot. I think in time, you might like it as well. You don't have a favorite color now, but I'll give you mine.
Pulling Care's arm towards himself, Marvin injected the bluish liquid into Care's arm. As Care would cry in pain, Marvin pulls out a bandage, slaps it on her arm, and leaves. As Care sits alone, she would look at the bandage. An orange bandage.
She really really hated that color.
Our narrator watches the footage she filmed last night and hopes to find something meaningful, which is his wall, the sky, a sidewalk, and a house. The same house Karen and his ex-wife live in. As he rewinds the tape, he notices something. Behind the window of the house, in darkness, was a head. A person, looking through the window. The figure would move back and forth in panic, then lay down on the floor. After shutting off the TV, he grabs his camera and heads to Tapers. He chats with the clerk about visiting his ex-wife's house, wanting to see Kara again, and feeling hopeless about seeing a new man inside.
I stopped by my ex-wife's house yesterday. Just wanted to see her again. I brought the camera. A camera? What, were you going to film her killing you? No, I was going to film my kid. She's a good girl, but she ran from me last time. I wanted a second try.
The perspective shifts to Kara's mother, lying in bed for hours, paralyzed by guilt and fear. We later learn that she's afraid of her own daughter. So afraid that the thought of starting conversation with her struck fear. After finally getting out of bed, she decides to clean the house as a form of procrastination. However, she finds that every broom is glued to the walls of the ceiling. More absurdly, somehow her favorite broom got stuck inside another broom. To distract herself from cleaning up the house, she resolves to wake up Kara and apologize for her awful behavior. As she climbs the stairs, she finds Kara's room to be tidy and empty. It was too perfect. She attempts to call out Kara's name, hoping for a response, but all she got was silence. Kara is gone. Back at the band at school, Marvin still struggles to start a conversation with Kara. He takes Kara through various rooms until they reach a library. The chair Kara was sitting in breaks. As she stands there staring at Marvin, he attempts to talk to Kara again, promising her that he won't hurt her and just wants to know her name. In a soft voice, Kara would reply. Marvin felt so excited with this response that he completely forgot what she said.
Kara? Care. Karen? Care. Karina? No, Care. Carla, yeah?
Eventually, Kara just agreed to whatever Marvin said out of exhaustion. Confused and deeply uncomfortable, Kara is left being stuck in a library with Marvin, not just by his presence, but just being in this library.
Kara's desire to explode only intensified.
As Kara sits on the cold floor, she takes interest in some books. The books around her feel alive at first, shouting at each other, but gradually fall into quiet chit-chat. Meanwhile, Marvin wanders off to find something fun for them to do. He heads into his favorite classroom, a room with 2 closets. He rummages through the drawers and closets until he finds a rope and what appears to be a frisbee. Grabbing the frisbee, all Marvin needed to do was throw it. Immediately opening the door, Marvin would throw the frisbee, not paying attention at where it would go. Kara would scream as the frisbee would hit her face. Marvin stood there in awe, but then quickly began to panic as Kara started to cry. Walking downtown, our narrator films people walking down the sidewalks. They're described as hopeless, ignoring the world, all marching forward at the same lifeless pace, spreading gloom for all to enjoy. While lost in thought about the absence of his daughter, the narrator accidentally bumps into a stranger, a man named Hill, wearing metallic clothing and a rock tie. In an act of aggression, Hill takes the taper out of the narrator's hands, refusing to return it before smashing it to pieces. If it wasn't bad enough, the narrator would try to pick up the pieces. Hill would step on the narrator's head and taunt him while everyone else continues to walk by.
You're a fool. Hopeless. Useless. This is where you belong. Trust me. And mark my words, you will never get up again.
Shifting the focus back onto Kara, a mysterious lump has appeared on her arm. Somehow, the lump was starting to move up higher on Kara's body, having to take up the watch and put it on her other arm. Dragging her out of her bedroom, which was basically a classroom, Marvin takes Kara into a basement. In one corner was a large cardboard box, and the other corner was a closet and a couple of empty shelves. On the opposite side of the room was a door, blocked by a couple of stacked chairs. Kara blindly walked into the direction of the door until Marvin would stop her, warning her not to go in there. As she was ready to sit down, Kara would notice a flat circular object on top of the shelf, the same object that hit her on the head. She asks Marvin for it, but refuses, placing it into the closet.
He's waiting.
Returning upstairs, Marvin asks Kara what they should do next. Kara replies, nothing. After storming off, Kara is left in her room, sitting on the floor, doing absolutely nothing.
Back again, are you?
Kara is back at work at the Happiness Engine. A rectangular shape refuses to cooperate with Kara. Ignoring him, Kara focuses on the other parts of the machine. She begins to talk to a triangular piece, who speaks a bizarre language. As Kara inserts the triangle into the machine, a part of the engine lights up. The rectangle, feeling left out, falls silent in the face of progress. Care, feeling proud about herself, stands up knowing she's now halfway done. Visiting Tapers again, our narrator talks with the store clerk, confessing feeling lost and full of regret. Encouraged by the clerk, he decides to visit his ex-wife in hopes he could talk to his daughter again. But as he arrives, he's greeted by how dull, broken, and lifeless the house looks. Upon seeing her husband again, Care's mother reacts in a fit of anger upon seeing him. She tells him that Care is missing and accuses him of taking her away. The conversation becomes more intense, ending in Care's mother screaming at the narrator to get out, as a strange, loud cracking sound continues in the background. After calming down, Care's mother would notice a big clump of black paint scattered across the floor. What once was covered in black reveals bright green paint underneath. Care attempts to sneak out of her room to retrieve the object she wanted earlier. When she gets to the closet, the piece is missing, and hears a loud mechanical noise coming from the other room. She discovers what appears to be a sadness engine Marvin has been building. Care climbs the machine's tower and pulls out the piece, causing the machine to explode. With the object in hand, Care escapes from the room, just as Marvin comes downstairs and catches her. Seeing his machine destroyed, he is devastated, and as punishment, Marvin locks Care into a closet. After the encounter with Hill, the narrator is left in a complete mess. He stumbles into Tapers, but notices that the store is emptier than usual, with a bunch of stacked boxes in the corner.
Hey, what's with all the boxes? Oh, well, Tapers went bankrupt and everything. What? Hey, don't look at me. It's not my fault. I'm just a hungry employee.
The narrator at this point starts to have a panic attack. With nothing left in his life but the taper store, he falls into despair. The clerk jokingly offers him an axe, suggesting that violence is the answer to his problems. The narrator considers killing his own daughter, but then comes to his senses, realizing she's not his enemy. Instead, he plans on killing someone else, and then himself. Returning to his home with the axe in hand, he searches for this enemy, but in the end, nothing happens. Before he's about to give up, Hill appears, confronting and accusing him of attempted murder. In a panic, the narrator throws the axe as it bounces off of Hill's head, not harming him in any way. Hill responds with fury, shaking the house and physically assaulting the narrator. Before leaving, Hill writes something in a notebook, places the page on the narrator's head, and leaves, while the narrator seemingly faints. Still trapped in the closet, Care knew what Marvin was trying to build, and knew he needed to be stopped. But her attempts at trying to escape are futile, injuring herself on a nail and being hit by a falling box of crayons. Care starts to go insane, experiencing hallucinations and dreamlike sequences of green walls, black liquid, drowning, and disappearing voices. Hill's malicious remarks struck a strong desire within the narrator to reclaim his daughter. Wearing a taper shirt and ridiculous glasses, the narrator sets off to go find his daughter. Feeling empowered and heroic, he follows a trail that leads to the old school building. Inside, he searches for Hill, calling out to him, feeling like he's being watched and mocked, while the sound of a machine shakes the entire school. He stumbles upon a mysterious closet, but is stunned to find Care inside, alive. He announces himself as Taperman, as a way to show his heroic intention to save her, but Care resists, telling him that Hill is building something with the machine and is searching for a large, round, heavy object from the next room. The narrator bursts through the door in the next room, but instead of finding Hill, he finds Marvin.
He saw me. He saw my camera. He recognized us both. And to him, I was the hungriest man alive.
Struggling with memory loss, Marvin suddenly remembers his fascination with systems and discovery. Having come face to face with the narrator, Marvin becomes extremely aggressive. He grabs a pole and starts chasing down Care and the narrator, but immediately falls and is knocked out. As the two escape, Care insists they need to find the mysterious object. Ignoring her, the narrator drives off, hoping to return Care to her mother and gain some recognition. Despite escaping, the narrator feels a little uneasy, feeling that somewhere, Hill is still watching. Back at the house, Care's mother experiences a hallucination. She's confronted by a ghostly lamp. Its light shines brightly upon her as she screams at it, telling it to go away. Meanwhile, the narrator plans a dramatic reunion, telling Care when he stomps his foot that she should run to her mother for a joyful embrace, propping himself as the hero of the story. However, as his plan goes accordingly, everything goes sour when his ex-wife accuses him, again, being the one who took their daughter in the first place. She refuses to forgive him and shuts the door in his face. Marvin, on the other hand, manages to activate the sadness machine, spreading sadness, anger, and regret all across the world. But amidst this, he realizes what he has done was a terrible mistake, The hungry were not hungry at all, or in the slightest bit evil. Instead, they were the ones feeding something, someone. A mysterious figure called the Master. This realization drives Marvin to the brink of madness. Fueled by anger, he prepares to confront, or more likely, kill the one he holds responsible for all evil. While this is happening, Kare's mother is in a strangely good mood, as a strong wind destroys parts of her house. As the winds calm down, Kare's mother would leave the house.
Where are you going? The store. I'm getting a new lamp.
Unfortunately, this could be farther from the truth. Once again, the narrator is venting his frustrations to the clerk, who really could care less.
Weren't you supposed to kill that kid? I gave you a drawing and everything. I don't kill people. I would need a very good reason. Good reason? That's easy stuff. Is it? Oh, indeed. Hey, look out there. How cute. You'll get a nice hoot out of this, I'll tell you.
As the clerk pointed out of the window, there was his ex-wife, happiest as she could ever be, dancing through the town with Hill. Shaken furiously, engulfed with rage, the narrator finally found his reason. Storming out of the taper store, he walks his way towards his ex-wife's house. Upon reaching the house, he notices a mysterious old man nearby the house, who, coincidentally, shared the same interests.
May I, by any chance at all, interest you in an axe?
The pieces inside the happiness engine had become afraid, scared knowing how everything was about to end. Kare, oblivious to the situation, asked the pieces what was going to happen. In a wave of different languages scrambled together, all said the same thing.
The end. You're never going to make that engine. You're never going to make anything. It's the end, Kare. You're over.
As the pieces participated in a final group hug, minus the rectangle piece crying in the corner, the machine exploded, bursting into flames. As she is stunned in the flames in her bedroom, Kare wakes up from her dream, as Marvin stands above, with an axe in hand. Kare rolled off her bed and ran down the stairs as Marvin followed. Coming from the center of her head, she would start to feel a throbbing pain. Gripping her forehead, she headed out the back door. Marvin would attempt to make an attack as he charged towards her, only to be tripped by Kare and falling to the ground. Although Kare's next plan was to run, she noticed a strange silhouette standing behind a tree, carrying a camera. Waving her arms to get its attention, the silhouette didn't leave its spot. Once again, standing on his two angry legs, Marvin stood behind Kare, while the narrator watched with satisfaction. As he shouted vile threats, the pain inside Kare's head intensified. Falling to the ground, Kare's head began to grow unnaturally. Dropping the axe, Marvin halted in horror as Kare's head began to grow at an unbelievable rate. Her skin and veins bursted from her body, anchoring her to the earth and grabbing Marvin by his legs. The veins started to burn up, eventually catching fire. As Marvin screamed in horror, the veins, in all their rage, lit everything around them on fire, burning Marvin to death. Seeing this as a happy ending, he would watch with his taper in his hands, filled with satisfaction. Kare was still screaming. The skin and blood from her face had been peeled off and she was reaching its peak. There was a long moment of suspense, and as Kare screamed one last time, Kare exploded into hundreds of bloody pieces. The last chapter opens with the narrator at a Tapers convention. After Tapers had gone bankrupt, a convention was held filled with the spirit of passionate, creative people. The narrator is accompanied by the Happy Man, the man who founded Tapers. He encourages the narrator to prove his worth, although he is a bit imitated by the crowd filled with cameras and critical eyes. The event begins with an announcement, calling attendees to take their seats for a screening. The narrator nervously steps forward with a videotape recorded by his taper. The tape was going to be played in an almost magical videotape machine, called the Tapers Videotape Machine, made by a brilliant man who mysteriously disappeared. Plopping the tape into it, a loud, unsettling mechanical noise started coming from the machine. As the lights turned off and everyone became silent, the video started to play. It was then the narrator started to question how magical this videotape machine was, until realizing what was about to happen. The video being played was recordings of events from the previous chapters. As the audience watched in awe, the narrator noticed something strange. Throughout the video, there was one impossible alteration. Somehow, in all the recordings, Marvin had been completely erased from the footage and replaced by the narrator himself. This was the magic of the videotape machine. Without even looking, it had become clear that this was Marvin's revenge. As the audience begins to applaud, completely unaware of the hidden motives, the narrator faints. And that, my friend, was Tapers, a surreal story exploring complex and unsettling themes of neglect, abuse, and obsession. If you haven't realized by now, a lot of Tapers' elements have been reused to develop Petscop's story, though taken in a completely different direction. Characters like Marvin and Care and the kidnapping dynamic are clear indications of reused elements, although in Tapers, they are not related like in Petscop. In hindsight, it's clear that Tony had reused both Nifty and Tapers to develop his story for Petscop. Despite Tapers being written in 2009, Tony's writing has almost stayed the same. But there's another project that I want to talk about, a story told through an accompanying soundtrack about true innocence and love of pleasure. Good Sky begins with her and her mother baking a cake in their home. Her mother tells her that her father is coming home, and that they should be ready when he does. Her mother picks up a newspaper with the headlines reading, "The war is over." We learn that Good Sky's father joined the war, and is now returning home. Good Sky's mother warns her not to mention anything about the war, since he probably has seen a lot of horrors. When her father returns, he's in a wheelchair with a book in his hand. Both Good Sky and her mother greet him, but don't get a reaction. Her mother attempts to give her husband a slice of cake, before her father rejects the offer. She explains that the food is the second of all pleasures, and the first will come later. Her father immediately rejects these pleasures and instead embraces their twisted counterparts: pain, nausea, dissonance, and suffering. The war has altered her father's perspective, and it's said that returning soldiers have turned away from the pleasures, becoming drivers of the pains. Her mother pleads to forget all that he has seen, but her father responds by calling her stubborn and ignorant. Calling for Good Sky, she sits on his lap as her father tells her stories from the war. During the war, her father and other soldiers stopped at a lumber mill in the center of a forest, where a man would greet them. Inside were piles of wood and many shelters filled with skinny men. They were prisoners of war. As her father would put, he would meet a man with a skin condition called katilakune, which results in missing skin layers, causing immense pain. The man would explain that when the sun would set, he would be forced into a shelter where he would be attacked by palms and fingernails of other people. All remaining dead bodies were to be burned, which explains the pile of wood. In an attempt to wake her up to this new philosophy, Good Sky's father would cut off her ring finger. After fainting from seeing blood, Good Sky would then wake up in her bed as she looks at the snow falling outside her window. She notices the people outside, rubbing their hands together, shaking, and children pleading to their fathers to let them back inside their house. Her father would approach her room, telling her to look at the weather. Fearful for her life, Good Sky would jump out the window and run away. Cold and alone, Good Sky would stop at a tree, when a girl would approach her. The girl would comfort Good Sky and introduce herself as Pars English. As they bond over their abandonment and shared trauma, Pars would reveal that she has a skin condition that made her feel pain all the time, revealing it to be the same skin condition her father talked about, katilakune. Good Sky would stay up with Pars English for the time being. Having little to none food, there seemed to be a little time for both Good Sky and Pars. Their closest neighbor is revealed to be Pars' aunt. She is what they call a true lover of all the pleasures, and deserves their respect. Pars would lose her ability to move as the katilakune worsened. As she laid in bed, she would ask Good Sky about her father and the pains. Pars would express how she would rather be a lover of the pleasure than the lover of the pains, and before she could say more, there was a knock on the door. At the front steps laid a cake, signed by Pars' aunt. Taking the cake for herself, Good Sky would eat 3 slices from it, before Pars calls out to Good Sky, claiming she has figured out what the pains are. Pars believe that the core of the pleasures is having or ownership like warmth or comfort, and the pains is the lack of those things. She explains how warmth is tied to pain. The neighbors ignore them not out of malice, but because like warmth, pain can be transferred, making the girl's pain their pain. Pars uses a wood block painted blue and gray as a metaphor for truth and the inevitable, suggesting that even the parts of life people refuse to acknowledge, like pain or grief, cannot be prevented. As Good Sky would leave her room with the block in hand, she wouldn't tell her about the cake, but instead would eat the whole cake herself. Feeding Pars rotten food to keep her sick until she's unable to talk or move, she would continue to eat every single cake her aunt would bake for Pars, succumbing to the pains. The next day, Pars' aunt would drop off another cake, with a note saying,
"I still love you, Pars."
Feeling a pain inside her chest, Good Sky would check on Pars, who at this point is dead. Dragging her body to the kitchen, Good Sky would dice Pars into tiny little pieces and eat her, tasting the bitter pain that makes one invisible. This act seals Good Sky's understanding that she can never return home, as she faces a bleak, gray sky. This story is a lot. The traumas of war, love, and the loss of childhood innocence makes the story a lot darker than I realized before analyzing it. Even though it's a much earlier work, I can see how this story developed in 3D Workers Island, literally reusing Katilakune. Despite the comparison, Good Sky on its own is a very well-written story, with several deep and complex themes. I provided a link to the website where you can read and download the soundtrack yourself, which also has a really nice album cover drawn by Johnny Panic. Now, the next project that I want to talk about, this one is probably the weirdest out of all, considering that no one really has figured out the nature of this project. But without further ado, let's take a look at Writing To Ronn. Writing To Ronn is a mini web series created on YouTube around 2016. Looking at the channel, it only has 5 videos in total, with the channel description reading,
Ron's father speaking. I finally found YouTube.
Jason Writing To Ronn is the first video of the channel. Strange music begins to play as what appears to be a website to submit questions or messages to Ron Buck. Who is Ron? I have no idea.
Who is Ron? Together? What is he doing in After Bear House? Are we allowed to tell him?
At the bottom of the submit button is a description that reads,
Ron Buck reads and responds to all messages he gets. He will read your message and respond to it. Make sure you tell him how much you appreciate him. He will respond to your message, even if you don't let him know this. But you should do it. I am Ron Buck's friend. I'm Ron Buck's friend.
We begin to see Jason typing his message to Ron, who can't really figure out exactly what he wants to say as he's constantly rewriting his message. We learn that Jason has sent out a previous message to Ron and is thanking him for taking the time to look at his message, which is where the video ends. There's also a description which reads,
Jason didn't finish the message he was trying to write to Ron before I told him to stop.
Brady Writing to Ron is the second video of the Writing to Ron channel. We see Brady typing out his message to Ron.
Hello, I'm Brady. I appreciate you. Please tell me how the Aripsic works and how to get the teeth off your arms.
As Brady submits his message, a pop-up appears.
Your message has been sent to Ron Buck. He will respond to your message on Monday. Thank you for keeping your message brief. He's very busy today. He's an engineer.
We later learn through the video's description that Ron did respond to Brady's message, but Brady did not see his response as he was very busy. We then move on to the perspective of Donald, angrily typing out a message.
This is Donald again. You keep talking about your work, which I don't know anything about. I'm trying to get an answer to my fucking question. Please read my message again.
As he attempts to send his message, another pop-up appears.
Please write your message again. Profanity is not allowed. Ron doesn't deserve it. If you're upset, you shouldn't be communicating with him at all. We would recommend taking a 30-minute walk, starting right now, 2:44 p.m., ending 3:14 p.m.
Apparently Donald would end up taking that walk, but was still angry. As Candace writes her message, it tells us more about a previous someone we saw writing, Jason. Candace asks if they have heard anything from Jason, as he was trying to ask about Ron's son. She suspects that Jason may have been spotted on the website and will notify if any information were to come. Now, the last video is what I consider to be the strangest video out of all the other Writing to Ron videos, titled
The Aripsic, It's Behind the Camera.
All it really is just 4 minutes of what appears to be a dresser, I think.
We kept the Aripsic behind the camera. This was from a long time ago, before Ron started getting so many messages from people all the time and had to start living alone. He's in the room with his son. I'm his son. Both of us are behind the camera with the Aripsic.
In the Aripsic video, there was a comment posted by the Writing to Ron channel, with a reply linking to an image from eBay.
So it's not home sweet home? Adjust.